Okay, guys, so I just wanted to come on really quick, actually, not really quick, as long as it takes, to give the overview of my story. I'll do a better video on it, but currently, right now, just to kind of catch everybody up as to like why the heck they should even listen to me, or what do I even know about what I'm talking about when it comes to representing yourself, being pro se, and just kind of taking on court corruption and government corruption. So the quick overview is that, up until COVID, I think it was 2022, I was definitely like trying to just not be bothered, to be sovereign. I was homeschooling. I was even living off grid for a while. I was just like, keep me away from governments and I'm happy. But in 2022, of course, with everything with COVID happening, you might be able to imagine that I was not really about like the restrictions and various things that was going on. I was homeschooling still, my youngest, and so I still had that level of autonomy. But it was a lot going on. And then she was going into middle school, and that was when she had always planned to start school. And we delayed public school. And we delayed it for 1 year to try to see if COVID would go away, die down, the different restrictions and things. And they didn't. And so she started school, I think it was 2022, in public school. And we chose specifically the school district that we chose because they had like optional mask policies at the beginning of the year. So not to do a whole deep dive into this, but basically, once she started public school and once COVID restrictions started hammering the community, I got very involved, if you will, on the political side of things and showing up at school board meetings and getting in exemptions and just researching rights and how to get public officials not to just completely ignore them. And what had happened was that there was a point where I was so frustrated, and there was a freedom lawyer at the time, trying to help people with COVID restrictions. And we had gotten together through some like political activity, and I ended up hiring him, paying him $500 to come to a school board meeting and to basically deliver. It was supposed to be, at the time, this is the first, I was like everybody else, like a lawyer comes in and they make things happen. And that's how you make things happen. And I paid him all this money to write a letter, and he came in and delivered it. And I was just like, what? I could have written that and delivered it with so much more fire. And like, it has no legal authority to it. There's no legal authority to it. It's just somebody saying, that these things are happening. And so kind of cracked my head open, where I was like, wait a minute, what is even the point of lawyers? Like, what are they doing that we can't do? And I really got curious right then. And that's when I just also at the same time was starting to look into public records requests and starting to make public records requests and starting to understand how powerful public records requests were. And so those two things kind of intertwined as I continued to fight the COVID battle. And I realized that if I was I realized that basically you're a barking dog, a barking chihuahua, unless you actually file a lawsuit, right? So everything you do up until filing a lawsuit, all the threats you might make to tell a public official to stop, all the noise you might make, even complaints or whatever, it's all just noise to them until a lawsuit is filed. And I was starting to understand that's what it actually takes. And at the same time, understanding that the receipts are where you can trip them up. Like, you need your receipts. That's the public records arm of representing yourself. And so basically during that time, I was like, well, I wanted to get more and more actual experience, because I saw the writing on the wall. I saw like a federal case coming up, and these public records violations, and I saw where it was headed, that I was going to have to learn how to litigate. And so I actually ended up, I had been practicing a traffic scenario. And so I had been practicing when I actually did get pulled over for something ridiculous, like not having lights on my license plate. And so I got pulled over, and so I had already been practicing the script. So when the cop pulled me over, my daughter was in the passenger side, and she's like a teenager. And so I was like, turn on the phone. So she videotaped the whole thing. And I, for the first time, really stood up for my rights when he was asking me where I was coming from and what. I was like, I don't have to answer this stuff. I was very polite, but firm in practice. Like, it was shaky to do this, right? Like, it was nerve-wracking as heck. And I didn't feel fully prepared, but I was like, this is your moment. This is your opportunity. Like, you're not gonna just roll over on this traffic ticket. And he was awful. He was so, and it was in a little rich town or whatever. So, but even then, with just me and my daughter in the car, just to be, challenged like that, these egos pop out. So his ego just got huge. He called up backup. They put these, floodlights in my car, threatening all this kind of stuff, like to tow if I wasn't going to comply with XYZ. Essentially, this is not a video about this, but, essentially it was a situation, and these are where the situations are, is that as long as you are putting on the record that you're under duress, like, I'm not going to sit here and challenge a man with a gun. I'm going to do what he says, but I am going to put on the record that I'm doing it under duress. So I got through that traffic stop, and rather than actually focus on the police officer, which is something I could have done, I focused on getting out of that traffic ticket through jurisdiction. And I just got sucked into the Akron traffic court mafia, and it was just a huge, insane experience. And it was like, I wanted that though, because I wanted to have that hands-on experience of litigating and understanding the process. And I will tell you what, guys, when I started, first of all, there was no AI, there was no robot, there was only these law group chats where I was like, you would get so nervous about posting a question in there, because they could rip you apart if they thought your question was like ignorant or not well researched or whatever. Like, they're ruthless in there. And but I pushed through, and I got to the point on my traffic ticket that I was literally going in to wave the white flag, because it was just felt like so much work. It felt so exhausting. I really wasn't 100% sure what I was even doing. And I came into that, I guess it was supposed like a trial or something. I came in and they dismissed it when I was literally about to say, whatever, how much do I owe you? And if I didn't fix my necklace before I got started, but oh well. So that was like one of the most incredible moments when I left that court, and that traffic court in Akron, with a win. Basically, it was a dismissal. So it was like my first win. And I felt like on cloud nine. I felt like I could do anything. I felt like such a boss. And that got me hooked. I was like, okay, so there is a way to get these people to actually do what they're supposed to do. And so that got me hooked to the idea of representing yourself and being powerful and learning court. So I still had some matters that based on the school district stuff. And so I was still working on some things there. And I can't say a lot about it because of non-disclosures and things. And so I have to kind of really figure out exactly what I can say about it. But let's just say that was also, I got into appeals court and things like that, and got more experience there. Well, when that was all said and done, to be honest, I was just like, it was so much work. This was all before AI anyway. So it was so much work to do all of that. And I was just like, all right, well, I just kind of want to live my life. I want to live peacefully. I had gotten out of a 10-year relationship, and my daughter and I, all my daughters, but the one that was still at home, we were starting fresh, and I just wanted to focus on love, focus on me. I felt very accomplished for what I had accomplished, and I just didn't feel like it was a burning thing for me anymore. I wanted to kind of switch and have some relaxing time. So I started dating, and I very specifically was dating looking for like a provider situation. And that's neither here nor there for this conversation, but that's what I was looking for. And of course, somebody showed up and they fit the bill. They had the same exact idea of the role they wanted to play in the marriage. And so I ended up marrying this person based on our agreement of him being a full provider. And, all this stuff happened within, it was very short. And I moved to, as part of our marital agreement and arrangement. And next thing I know, I'm looking at a divorce, and I've moved away. I've put all of these like financial dependencies into him as the provider. And now I'm going through a divorce. Okay. And so first I was just going to try to walk away cleanly as much as possible. And it just got to an obvious point that I was either going to have to really, really be like, walking away, just being stripped and being completely unprotected by the marital contract, and just letting him kind of get away with whatever just to be done and not be dragged into a divorce. But at the last minute, I'm just like, it's too much. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to actually hold this man accountable. And so that's when I decided to go ahead and that I needed to file for divorce. And when I did that, that was in November. And at first I even said, like, I could tell the courts were being squirrely. The family court was being pretty biased with pro se. But I was even just saying, okay, well, if I just get in here and if I just, I'm very rational and very reasonable. I don't want to fight. I don't want it to turn into like, this case against the Greene County Court. I literally said this in my law groups. I just want to, get divorced and not be, not be set back. So, not financially be not ruined, but because nobody could ever ruin me, but to have some fairness in this whole situation. And that's what I'm going to do. But it just so happens, and this is just the thing you have to know when you're pro se, is that you're always ready for that government or that court to treat you with bias, and you have to be ready for that, because if you're not and you expect to be treated fairly, then you'll probably just get steamrolled. So once that clicked in that wasn't happening, and that, this was going to be a case where I had to really hold the court and hold the government to accountability, it just fired me up again. And now that I'm here where I'm at with my case, my current case, the judge just got recused, or they just recused themselves on their own motion. I got switched over to a county that the courthouse is about an hour away. They pulled a retired judge out for my case. And it's just fired me up so much to realize that, like, the passion I do have for this work, and especially just realizing how, like, many people suffer and have suffered and are suffering and don't really know what to do and getting steamrolled. And I just have such a heart for helping people in any way that I can. I'm no expert by any means. I feel like I'm running circles around this family court, but it's family court. So they're dirty, rotten. So whether that means that I'm, whatever that means, I'm not saying that I could like run up into the Ohio Supreme Court and do circles around them. But what I'm saying is that some of the worst stuff is happening in these family courts and traffic courts anyway, so it's not a bad place to start. And so that's my story. That's a 15-minute version of it. We could literally build that out into like an hour or even longer with different parts of it, just going deeper into COVID, going deeper into my traffic case and things like that. But since I'm going to be putting a lot of these videos out now, I just wanted to quickly get a who am I, why am I doing this video on the record, and we'll build it out from there. All right, you guys, thanks so much for listening, and I'm here ready to help and encourage you any way possible. Stay curious, stay positive. Tell yourself, there's so much messaging out there that it can't be done, that it's impossible, that that's not my experience. That's not my experience at all. I fully believe at this point that I'm going to be walking away from my court experiences like rich, basically, because of these lawsuits that I'm stacking up. So, and not unusual in that way. That's just how corrupt it is. So there is money on the table. There is a way, there is potential to wipe the floor with these guys, like take the money out of the lawyers' hands. Corruption is just so rampant that my experience everywhere I've gone, every time I've even tried to address it or stand up to it, I'm looking at like lawsuits, So yeah, that's my little 2 cents. That's just what I got going on. That's who I am. And that's my story. All right. Bye, guys.